It's hard to ignore George Russell right now. His name's been all over the news, and not for reasons you'd expect. Whispers of Max Verstappen possibly teaming up with Mercedes have caused quite a stir, leaving Russell's seat looking more uncertain by the day. Even major outlets like Sky Sports, F1, and Formula Uno are talking, making it tough to brush this off as just gossip. With Toto Wolff openly praising Verstappen's potential fit, you have to wonder, where does that leave Russell? Russell isn't just some stand-in. He's proven himself time and again, and winning in Canada without relying on luck should have made his case stronger. But here he is, trailing Verstappen by only 9 points in the championship, yet still under question. It seems odd, doesn't it? You'd think Mercedes would see that and double down on their investment in George, but according to Toto, that moment hasn't come yet. The talks with Max aren't behind closed doors anymore. They're happening, and everyone knows it. Toto didn't hold back when asked about the situation. He mentioned that it's natural for conversations with someone of Max's status to happen. After all, when you're responsible for one of the most successful teams in Formula One, you've got to consider all your options. Still, the timing of it all raises eyebrows. George doesn't have a deal for next year, and while Mercedes tends to take its time with contracts, this time feels different. They're not just being quiet, they're actively talking about other names. Russell joined Mercedes in 2022, stepping in after Bottas. Since then, he's grown into his role, often showing flashes of brilliance. But none of that seems to be enough to shut down the rumors. The only slight comfort for George is that Toto still rates his current pair of drivers highly. However, if Max does decide to walk away from Red Bull, it's hard to imagine Mercedes not making room for him. That decision could flip Russell's entire career upside down fast. Over the next few weeks, we're likely to hear a lot more. Toto's already hinted that they don't want to drag this into the heart of summer without final decisions. But swapping out Russell isn't a minor change. Right now, he's in top form, possibly the sharpest he's ever been. His performances have been strong, consistent, and composed. He's also a homegrown talent, molded through Mercedes' development system since his early days in racing. So why even consider pushing him out? That's the question many are asking. Bringing in someone who famously ended Mercedes' dominance in 2021 feels like a bold, maybe even unnecessary gamble. Still, with the rise of young talents like Andrea Antonelli, Mercedes seems focused on shaping its next big era. Toto once missed the chance to sign Max early in his career. He doesn't want to repeat that mistake. And while Antonelli still has a lot to prove, the team sees him as their potential future star. Now, here's where things get even more interesting. Toto finds himself in a rare situation, the chance to pair a 4-time world champion with one of the most talked about young drivers in the sport. It's the kind of opportunity that could either set the stage for something big or cause complete chaos inside the team. Either way, Toto seems ready to take that chance, even if it means risking George's future. Russell knows what's coming. He's not ignoring the pressure or the headlines. In fact, when asked about the Verstappen rumors, he kept his cool and spoke like someone who understands how elite teams operate. According to him, Mercedes wants to get back to winning, and that means surrounding themselves with the absolute best. Whether it's drivers, engineers, or pit crews, the team is expected to aim for the top. That's why George isn't rattled, not yet. He believes his performance should speak for itself. From George's perspective, as long as he keeps delivering results, he sees no reason to worry. There are always 2 seats at every F1 team, he said, a subtle reminder that even if Mercedes does bring in Verstappen, there's still a spot to fight for. But outside voices are adding more fuel to the speculation. Zach Brown, for instance, made a sharp observation. When this many people are whispering the same thing, chances are something real is going on. Karun Chandhok, part of the Sky F1 crew, added another layer. He believes Toto has already made up his mind about who would pair with Max, and it might not include George. Then there's Martin Brundle, who raised an important question. Would Mercedes really let Russell go just to protect Antonelli from being thrown into the fire next to Verstappen? After all, Max has a history of dominating his teammates. Is that a risk worth taking? This is where the real dilemma begins. Mercedes has always backed its young talent, and George Russell is one of their own. Letting him go now could send a strange message. But the team is also heavily invested in Antonelli. Many within the paddock believe he's their golden ticket to the future. Pairing him up with Verstappen might seem tempting on paper, but it could also crush the confidence of a driver still finding his footing. Then there's the bigger picture. If Mercedes signs Max, and George walks, that leaves Antonelli facing the sport's fiercest competitor without a buffer. Russell, on the other hand, has already been through the pressure, earned wins, and built strong relationships within the team. Losing both might be a price too high, especially if Max, who has hinted at stepping away from racing before hitting 40, decides to hang up his helmet in just a few years. Is that worth shaking up the entire team structure? Russell's options, if he's pushed out, aren't limited. In fact, a potential seat swap with Max at Red Bull is already being whispered about in the background. Talks between Russell's camp and Christian Horner have reportedly started quietly. Of course, in case things take a turn neither side expects, That alone confirms George is preparing for all possibilities. And Red Bull wouldn't mind having someone as consistent and well-groomed as him. But Red Bull isn't the only door open. Aston Martin is said to be seriously interested. With major changes arriving in 2026, they believe George could be the perfect leader for their future plans. They've invested heavily in tech, hired top minds, and partnered with Honda. All signals they're aiming for championships, not just podiums. With Alonso eventually stepping aside, Russell might be the ideal name to carry that torch. As Mercedes inches closer to a massive decision, George stands at a career crossroad. Will he stay, lead the team into a new era, or take his talents elsewhere to prove a point? Only time will tell. But one thing's clear, this story is far from over.